I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So you never participated in any of those notices.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add public comments 1.03 and 3.03.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, then how about a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, at this time, we have our first opportunity for public comments. I don't have my usual spiel in front of me, but if you would like to make a comment, a public comment, please introduce yourself and give your address and the school district in which you reside. This would also be a good opportunity if we have any of our board candidates present who wanted to stand and introduce themselves. You're welcome to do so. You don't have to, but I wanted to make sure you have this opportunity. So, would anyone like to make a public comment or introduction? All right, well, we amended that agenda for nothing, too. Okay, no worries. So, next up, we have communications, recognitions, and information. We do have a board vacancy. John, do you want to talk about this, or want me to talk about it?
Whichever. I mean, I'm happy to. So, we know that Arnold made official at the last meeting that he had to resign from the board, given his move out of the district, along with his wife. And so we, at the last meeting, talked about the process that we would use that's guided by board policy to move forward and make a selection ultimately. With that, what we did is we advertised in a number of specific spots, some that were specifically listed in board policy, such as city halls, libraries, websites. But we also pushed communication out via email, social media, and the such. As of the close of the application process, which was Friday at 5 o'clock, we had 8 applicants that submitted interest. You received their information, their letters of intent, interest, and their resumes and board docs. And so what board policy states is that we have the opportunity, you have the opportunity as a school board to either make a decision, select a candidate from the list of applicants, or engage in an interview process. Our position is that if we do the interview process, that would happen at a later time, not tonight. Or else we would have told candidates that they had to be there, which we told them that they did not. They were not obligated to be here. So anything you want to add, Amy?
Just to clarify that this is an appointment to serve from now until the April election, when Joe, David, and me are all up for re-election. So this is however many months that is, term. And I'm thrilled that we had so many people who were interested. I think that's great. Yeah. In terms of appointing someone, I'll just jump right out and say I don't feel comfortable doing that, particularly without David here. I think all of us, all 6 of us now need to be here when we make that decision. Do you all have thoughts about interviews, interviewing everyone, narrowing it down? Any thoughts?
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Does the appointee need to take the 16 plus hours of training between the appointed time and, I guess, April, if they don't have board service? Prior?
I'm pretty sure it's a no.
I'd say encouraged, not required.
Okay.
Great question.
Any other thoughts on the process?
I like the idea of narrowing it down and interviewing. Maybe 3, 4.
Okay.
I agree. The response was more than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have the chance to talk to him. That kind of.
Would you think of interview a smaller group?
Yes.
Joe, Alex, what do you guys think about that, narrowing the pool and interviewing them? The interviews, once again, the interviews will be in open session. So, give an opinion, Joe.
I don't have a strong opinion. I think it would be a lot easier to narrow it, if we can narrow it down, as long as we can do that reasonably.
Yeah, I'm aligned with that.
Okay.
I think it's, yeah, we definitely need to narrow the field.
Okay, just for, yeah, time constraints. So then, I guess what we need to do then is, I don't know if we want to rank the applications that we have, and then I'm open to suggestions as to how to narrow it down. Do we want to talk about criteria that we should consider when making that decision? Like, we could decide, we could talk about that now and say, this is what we're looking for. In consideration of that, go back maybe on your own and rule some people out or recommend some people for interviews. I'm winging it, guys. I've never
Yeah,
done
sure.
this.
Yeah.
When I was reading through them, I was, first of all, really struck by how many people were willing to serve kids in this district and our community. And then secondly, I noticed that there were several candidates, really several, who have background and knowledge of education and educational policy, have been in and out of classrooms, have kids in the district. So I do think there are quite a few good candidates. I think all of them are good candidates,
Sure.
honestly. But then I was thinking about what Arnold, what we missed when he stepped away.
Mhm.
And I think it is that education, that knowledge of education, and that background in education, and the experience with knowing and reading about educational data. So that's what I was thinking about when I was looking at them.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the skill set that Arnold brought was unique. And so I was kind of trying to look through a lens and filter, like, how can we, fill that void given, he was elected in that position. Granted, didn't have to run, but still, I think that was something that I was looking for as well, but also thinking, in the short, through that lens also, just given that it is a short time frame, if you do have a skill set that understanding the policy and procedure as well, I thought was important. And again, I think that regardless, I agree. I think all the candidates are really good and should consider running, if not chosen for this position.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about, keep in mind that it's a 6-month position, and so we want somebody who's going to be able to, I mean, you guys know, it's overwhelming. I remember my first, 6 months, a year, 2 years, a lot of it was just trying to figure out how things work. So I think either having a background in education or just having some understanding of the process and the role of a school board member is going to be really important.
I agree.
It's a 6 months chock full of really big decisions.
It is, that's the thing, it's a really important 6 months, yeah,
So-
that's absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, do we want to write down who our top picks are and then give them to you, and then you can see if if there's 3 or 4 that.
That everyone
Like-
agrees on,
Right.
that'd be nice.
That's a thought, is how we can kind of.
That would be nice if we could,
Yeah, just right out of the gate, you could see, and then if not, then we have maybe,
Plan B.
Yeah.
figure out another way to.
well, so maybe we could do like a process of elimination in terms of, I personally am not prepared to do it tonight, I need to spend some more time with the resumes. But if we could, over the next 5 days or so, maybe send we have 8, top, what, 5?
That's probably fair.
Is 5 feasible?
I think
And
that's usable.
then-
So we're looking to narrow it down, and then do we, and then board, you, me,
David and
David, you guys would look at it and then make the decision as to who comes back based on, like, say, here's what the data showed.
Yeah.
So here's who we're bringing back.
And it may be that we need to reach out to you all again, like, let's say there's no consensus. And so we take whoever has the most, like, say there's 2 people that everybody wants to interview, and then it's not so clear after that, we might come back to you in email, public record, and say, we need to narrow it down, and then do it that way. But then, that way everybody would have a voice in deciding who gets interviewed.
Mhm.
I don't want to just make that, I'm not going to just make that decision. I don't know, it's kind of,
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'm just wondering about is there, do we need to, I guess I'm wondering, is the email discussion sufficient enough? You know, I guess we are just whittling it down. That probably can't, I mean, we do it as, and our job all the time is we're looking at resumes and letters and stuff like that and making decisions to narrow down, you know, to get further along in the process. Is that something, because like we said, we don't have a lot of time. And if we draw it out too long, well, it's gonna be the first of the year before we do anything.
well, I think
So-
it's one thing, I think it's one thing if we have consensus right off the bat. If we
Yeah.
don't, then I think that, we're, you know, maybe me and David and you, we call an audible and say,
Yeah,
we need to have further discussion on this, email isn't going to do it.
yeah,
Let's get back together.
yeah,
That's fair.
okay.
I think it's just
I'm-
hard. We had no idea we'd have this many
I know.
candidates. So,
I know,
which is great. But
yeah.
It kind of makes you.
They know it doesn't pay, right? Not to put you on the spot, but if you have any thoughts or suggestions, because you do this all the time, on how to narrow the pool of candidates?
Yeah, my recommendation initially would be is kind of what you said, like what are you really hoping for or looking for in these next 5-6 months, however long it's going to be. So what are your top 1, 2, 3, maybe things, criteria, and then really looking at it, like having a consensus on that as best you can, and then looking at those resumes based on that, and so taking names, all those other components out of it, what resume, what, you know, letter of interest kind of speaks most to that. And then, you know, from your perspective, a 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm just saying that doesn't have to be 4, but a 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And then from there, if there is not consensus, then you are going to have to just
Get
come
back
back
together.
together and talk it through. Again, the key point I think is going to be building consensus on those 1, 2, 3 items that you're looking for. You guys got to be clear on that, because if not, you're looking from your own individual lenses of what you're hoping for, and you're going to potentially get 6 different
Right.
perspectives.
So I'm hearing, one is that we want someone who can fill in for some of the qualities that Arnold brought to the table. 2, we want somebody who's going to be able to get up to speed pretty quickly. And then I would say 3rd, and this is not, I don't know most of the people that apply, to be honest with you, but, so I would say this regardless, but because it is such a, we're going to be making such critical decisions in this time frame. You know, you guys know, because I talked to you all when you ran for the board, I always say, why do you want to do this? I want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. I want to make sure that everybody is interested in the long-term, you know, best interest of the district and students, and not, I just want to have a say in redistricting. Does that make sense? I don't know how we would tell that, but that's kind of going to be in my mind. Because it's a hot-button issue.
Absolutely.
Other criteria?
Yeah, there are criteria.
And that why, sorry to interrupt,
No,
you,
good.
sorry, Amy, but
No.
that why is going to be crucial, right? You may not see it in the letter of interest, you may not see it in the resume, and so it's really, I would recommend not inferring, not, you know what I'm saying? Oh, well, this is what I meant to say, what was actually stated. And that will keep it as neutral as possible versus, oh, I may not know all 8, but I know one of them, and I'm sure this is what he meant. If that's what you're processing, the other people are not going to process the same.
Right.
And so that'll be crucial as well, I think, is really seeing what's there and giving everybody an even playing field so that everybody has the same foundation when it comes to making that determination. That's going to be crucial.
So what they say their intention is, and don't try to second guess.
Right.
So I think that would make a great question for an interview.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
So I was thinking as I was reading them is, who is speaking to our board goals? As maybe a third
Yeah.
criteria.
Yeah, I like that too. So, that sounds like 4. Purpose, and maybe it's a 3A, but who's speaking to our board goals? So do we feel like we can look at the applications we have and suggest? You said 3, Sandy. Do you think 3 is a better number?
Yeah.
3? Okay.
Well, I think the one you mentioned would be better, because I don't think we'll know reading through that. Oh, well, we'll know their purpose. I take that back.
You think we can narrow it down to 3 before interviewing?
Oh, 3 people.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking.
I think so.
Okay. All right. So, to recap, I'll review what you guys send, obviously put my own thoughts together as well. And then if David and I look at it and say, we've got, 6, 7, 8 different people that we're favoring, then we're going to have to, put together probably a quick meeting to reconvene. Okay. And if I feel like there's consensus, then I'll let you know.
I was going to ask, are we ranking the people that we're sending to you?
I would.
Okay.
Yes,
And are we sending you just 3, or are we sending you?
just 3.
Okay.
Just 3.
And when do you want those?
John?
Can you do it by Wednesday? Is that doable, or do you need a little bit more time?
I could do it by
Maybe by
Wednesday.
Is that okay
Do it
for
by
you guys?
End of the day,
Wednesday?
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 Okay, then the criteria, we could send you the criteria. We're going to go with these 4 criteria. Is that what we're doing? Clear on that? The 4
I think
criteria?
so. Go ahead and say them.
Okay, so I could compose this and send it to you guys.
Okay.
One, that someone that has the same skill set attributes that you felt Arnold brought, somebody who doesn't need could be up to speed very quickly on what we're doing and how boards function and the role of governance. Somebody who has the best interest of kids, and then somebody who speaks to our board goals.
Yeah, I like it. Anything else you can think of? Thank you.
Okay? I'll send you something. Interesting time with that, isn't it? It's so
What?
different. It's just so
I
different.
know, it is. Okay, so reports from superintendent and staff. Ms. Frazier.
Ms. Frazier?
Good evening. So the district's auditing firm, Clifton Larson Allen, has completed their audit for the 2018-19 fiscal year. That complete report, the audited financial statements, and the notes to the financial statements are included in your board packet and board docs. I also wanted to let you know that we shared a draft of that report with the Finance Advisory Committee so that they were able to review it. Then this evening, Ms. Donna Doty, a certified public accountant with Clifton Larson Allen, is here to give you an overview of the audit report.
Thank you. As Pam mentioned, my name is Donna Doty. I'm a signing director at CLA. Done the audit with the Webster Grove School District for several years now. So first of all, just to explain a little bit about the audit process. Those in governance, the board, hired CLA to be independent auditors and to look into the records and the financial statements. And then we work with the team, including Joanne and Bruce and Dr. Simpson and Pam at the very end of, as it was wrapping up this year, to accomplish that. So as she mentioned, the financial statements have been presented to you, and they are in final form, as they have been approved by management and the committee. But just a little recap. It's a big document. The financial statements are broken out into about 4 parts, the biggest sections of them, and I'll just kind of explain. But the first side is the financial side. Then it goes into the single audit side, which is, and the yellow book side, which are in compliance with government auditing standards as you get federal monies. And then also at the end is we have the Missouri statute piece that we perform an examination on. So those are all the statistics and things like that at the end. I believe you have the financials, but I'll just kind of reference page numbers if by chance you're looking at it. But on page 1 is the independent auditor's report. I'm happy to announce that it's a clean opinion, which you should expect. The audit report goes through and explains really what the audit does and what management's responsibility is with the audit. As always, it is on the cash basis of accounting, so it is not full accrual, which same as many school districts within the state of Missouri. And then the next part is, starting on page 4, is the MD&A, the Management Discussion and Analysis. So this is verbiage from management that helps compare 2018 to 2019, and just important key financial aspects and highlights of the year. And it gives a lot of descriptions of the various types of receipts and disbursements that occur within the district, and it really helps kind of paint a picture of what the year looked like. And then, starting on page 13 is the actual financial statement portion of the audit. Lots of schedules, lots of statements. One in particular kind of gives you a big picture of what the financial position looks like, and it's on page 17. But just overall with the numbers, receipts totaled about $68.7 million without the sale of the bonds, and then disbursements were about $64 million. The sale of the bonds this year was 12.5 of additional receipts. So that basically that left a change in the fund balance of $17.2 million over the course of the year. And then that left at the end of the day a net position or fund balance of $64.1 million compared to $46.9 million. And then also within that financial statement piece of the financials, there are definitely other budget to actual kind of statements in there as well. And then on page 21, it goes into the footnotes, which are required disclosures. A whole host of information in there from the debt. Even though the debt is not recorded in the financial statements themselves, the footnotes go into more detail about things like that. And then it goes into the supplementary information, which is on page 35. And that starts out with the single audit part, which is the schedule of federal expenditures. And that illustrates all those federal funds that the district is getting. And as part of the audit, we are required to do some testing of that. This year, we tested the Title I program, and we were happy to report that there were no findings on the single audit side. And then also toward the end, when you get very toward the back, page 47 starts the Missouri reporting, and that's what DESE requires. Lots of statistics about the calendar, attendance, lunch counts, transportation. And this year, DESE made some big changes in the structure, account codes, account everything. They really messed it up for all the districts, and they had to do a lot of work to get everything in line with the new requirements for DESE. So if you kind of took this year's financial statements compared it to last year, you notice in the back that it does look a little different. Most of the information is all there and the same, it's just in different formats because they made us report it based on maybe the school building or the school grade versus in total. So, but with that, this year, DESE did change things, as I said, and it did require a lot of work from management to get all that in there. Also, there are no findings on the Missouri reporting side or on any part of the financial statement. So when I say it was a clean audit, there weren't even any types of findings. So that's great to report. And then also one other item with the audit, required governance letters included in there, and that was probably part of the packet that you received. And so that is a standard audit letter, as you were not part of the everyday happenings of the audit. It's just a summary of what happened during the audit, key highlights, and good reading. But anyway, that is pretty much it. My report on the financial statements. Does anybody have any questions or comments or?
I was just going to say that I realized there were no findings. I assume in the process of going through the audit and communicating with our staff, if there were best practices or something that you identified as an area of potential, could lead to fraud if we had the wrong person in or something like that. Did you identify anything like that or share anything like that with our our staff?
We do kind of always, we have a lot of communication just about things, and if small things pop up, we don't bring it to the level of,
Sure.
Of that. I can't say for sure if this year, it would have been more like best practice type things that
Yeah.
would have happened. As part of an audit, we have different levels that we look at. We do look at procedures and controls of the organization. An audit's not designed to specifically look for fraud, but we definitely do things that would show indications of fraud. We do elements of unpredictability, things that we haven't done before. We ask questions, we do fraud inquiries and things of that sort. But if we did have certain findings, there are different levels. We have material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and other comments. If you would have one of those top two items, which you don't, it would definitely be reported in a letter. But, I just through our normal conversations, we may have some things, but I'm not sure. I know especially with the whole DESI changing those things, a lot of communication was going back and forth about what makes sense and things like that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Joanne. I know this is a ton of your time, and Pam, and I'm sure Bruce as well, so appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. We get a wonderful cooperation from management. It's a lot of work to pull, and we have huge lists of what we ask for, so we really appreciate their time and, attention to it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Property update.
Pass that along.
Do we need to make a motion to approve?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
Oh,
we
yeah,
do, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2018-19 audit as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thanks, Christine, for catch.
Property update, just kind of wanted you guys give an overall update and kind of focus in a little bit on the boundary line process that we talked about at the last meeting too. Again, I'm going to continue to, at every single board meeting, unless it's a special board meeting called for a special cause, kind of bring property back in front of you just to give you updates, make the public aware of things that are happening. First, Honer and Dickinson Hussman continue to do their design and engineering work. You will have designs to you, I would say, by the beginning of January at the latest. And then we will look to select construction firms soon after that and shovels in the ground, late spring, early summer at the latest. They continue to do, meet with our staffs and our teams to finalize those projects. Presentations at schools and PTOs continue to go well. Again, I'm going around and I'm sharing a presentation with all these different groups about Prop E, all the elements of Prop E, what to look for, how to stay involved, how to stay engaged, where to find information, how to be involved in the process. This coming Monday, I'll be at Clark, and we are going to videotape that one. So I'm going to be with staff, I think it's staff earlier in the day, I think, or maybe they're a little bit later. For sure, going to be with their parents at night. And again, you guys have all those meetings. If you want to come to any of you can. And at that meeting, we will videotape the presentation, and then we'll put it online for anybody who wants to see it, social media and things like that. I did want to show you, we did push out to families today. Maybe. Stay tuned. We pushed out the website, so I've been working with different folks. Kathy V and Pat Weaver have done a lot for our district website that's going to have all things Prop E related, that's going to have process information, that's going to have any kind of survey, kind of like last time. If we put a survey out and we get responses, all the unedited responses will be there. Everything as it relates to Prop E, we're going to put updates on construction up there so people can see pictures of Hickson as it's being built and the such. We also there have a link to Cooperative Strategies site. So just going here, Prop E site is right here. And on here, you got some tabs. I'm not going to go through all the tabs. But again, we have FAQs, bond issue timetables, safety and accessibility updates, and construction. The FAQ, again, what we will do is anytime we get a question, we're gonna put the question and the answer up there as soon as we possibly can. We'll certainly reply to that person directly, however they communicated with us, and then we'll get it up there so that everybody can see. And we'll have a pretty long FAQ. That's what happened last time, but people very much liked it. So this is our district site. Right here, elementary redistricting details. You click here, and you come to the site. Cooperative strategies, this is on their page. They are handling everything as it relates to redistricting. So here you'll get the home, you'll get something related to the process that we're using. This is kind of like a step-by-step. It's give some of the data, some of the why, some of the process that started last year. On the schedule, here is the schedule for the elementary redistricting. That kind of walks everyone through so you know when surveys are going out, you know when community open houses are, you know when this advisory committee is meeting and the such, and you also know when the board's going to see initial options for the first time, that January meeting, and you know when the board is tentatively set to make the decision. Now, like anything else, these are, while we think they're pretty good, we feel comfortable with them, if extenuating circumstances pop up, then we may have to shift. Resources, on this part, you can click here. This is where we're going to have different presentation and information from the advisory. So if you were to click here, you could see the exact same information, the exact same data that everybody that was a part of the advisory got the other night. Okay? So there's different graphs. There's some of it that you kind of need to be there to really understand it. But this is where like criteria will be. This will be where data will be, information will be. One of the things that particular group is doing and the work that we did last time, and again, the advisory is composed of elementary principals were asked to identify a person. We had 3 members that were selected through the board to serve in part of this process. Kita is also are selected by individual board members, and then Kita is serving as the board rep. But one of the big, and you can just kind of pass this down a little bit, is one of the things they're doing right now is really just to engage in this process, kind of dividing up the school district into like parcels, into little chunks, based on what makes the most sense as far as a chunk of space and geography. So what I gave you is, for an example, is what cooperative strategies brought to the table the other night based on the knowledge that they had, which is limited. They don't live here. And so what they did with the group is they said, okay, here's what we have so far. Here are the parcels we divided up. Here's the number of current elementary school students in these parcels. Now, help us to make this better. So an example would be is that night they came and they had Highway 44 as a natural boundary line. And the committee's like, well, you know what, Highway 44 really doesn't affect our folks that much because we go over it on walking trails and we go under it. Big Bend is a bigger, probably dividing line for walking. So the group kind of looked at and gave recommendations to cooperative strategies based on their knowledge of the school district. This work will continue until we get to a spot where it's good, and ultimately, what this chart will be used to help kind of move parcels around to determine school attendance zones. And and the advisory committee will have technology on their computers that as they move parcels, because it's much easier to deal with. The theory behind parcels is it's much easier to shift and see changes in school populations than looking at individual streets. Make sense? So once they feel good about the parcels, then as they're going through processes, then as they're listening to all the feedback that the community is given, they can come in and play with the technology, shift some of the parcels around, and as you shift one parcel any which way, school populations change, and that data like populates instantaneously. Okay, pretty cool. Then kind of in the end, when they start looking at options, if they want to get into like individual streets, they can. And the examples came up because what they did is they took just our existing school elementary attendance zones. So you have C's, which is Clark, all around the Clark attendance area. But you also have them further north where those little catchment areas are, up by Manchester Road. They kept those. They just kept those where they were. Okay? We also talked, they also, in looking at existing attendance zones, there are some streets that divide kids into different schools. So literally, one side of the street to the next, you're going to a different school. Okay? So lines have to go somewhere, but everyone kind of agrees that's not like the most ideal necessarily, right? So we'll still use the parcels that we're creating, and then at the end, we can get a little bit more specific if we think there's anything that we need to tweak. And I say we, although I'm out of the advisory at this point, remember that. I was at the advisory the first meeting, and I am no longer a part of that advisory group. Okay? So all that data and information, again, will be able to be found on the site, kind of keep you abreast of everything that's going on with that particular group. One of the things that we have, any questions? I'm just kind of rattling here. Any questions as it relates to it? Keita, did you want to add anything?
I was just kind of explaining to Alex, one interesting thing about the little chart here. So you probably figured out AVE stands for Avery, Park Level. So as you're looking at the students, so say in H1, if you look across, there's 13 current students in it. So that'll kind of also give you an idea of where students are in the district, in case you're wondering what the other little numbers were. So, and that was one of the things we were kind of starting to try to take into consideration. Because like there will be a big chunk, like say B4, looks like really big, but it doesn't have, probably because of land, space, and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have larger numbers of students there. So it's, that's one of the things we're starting to kind of try to piece together. And then what was the one that had like 3 students?
B4.
B4 does.
You just called it that.
Oh, I was thinking the wrong
And
thing.
B14 has 71.
Three,
Yeah.
So,
So B4 is where Algonquin Golf Club is. And so my wondering was, before I actually knew that, was it seems like it's further away. Why didn't we group that with the one right above it? But what they do too is in their technology, they're able to see, they could of course drop a pin wherever, but they're able to see the average distance on streets to the nearest school. Okay? So in that example, you got B4 that's really big, and so my thinking was, well, if it's by itself, why don't you combine it with like B3 right below it? But they said no, B4 is actually closer to Hudson Elementary School. So they wanted to keep it separate. Because the B4 kids are kind of up north of Algonquin Country Club right there. So anyway, this is something that I think is pertinent that they shared. Let's see if I can. So, pull us back a little bit. No, pull it back. One of the things they showed is that it's just not as simple as telling everybody you can go to your closest school. So if and this is by car, so sometimes it could trip you up a little bit, because if you just look at it from a geographical standpoint, you're like, how does that work? But what this data shows is for Avery Elementary, if all the kids were going to their closest school, Avery Elementary, which has a capacity of 452 students, would have 549 current students in it. And then you would see the current free reduced lunch students who currently receive free and reduced lunch, 9%. The utilization is 121% of capacity. And then you see what Bristol would look like, Clark would look like, all the different schools would look like if it was just go to your closest school. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. 'Cause it's kind of like southeast of Webster Groves High School. Looks to me, it's purple, but wouldn't it be closer to Bristol than Avery?
Not necessarily by transportation.
Road, okay.
So that's one of the things that we talked about at some point, and they did not factor into, well, I can cut through the back of Roussan Field and get to Steger real quick. I've got to take roads all
So you're going
around.
by car transportation, not walking?
Yes, or walking on roads,
Or walking on
sidewalks, right.
sidewalks, okay.
So that's one of those things that we'll have to, we'll factor in as we get further down. They'll factor in as we get further down the process. Okay? So one of the things, the only really big task, and I'll answer any questions that you have tonight, what we wanted to do is I passed you out, I had sent a couple of weeks ago in your board update, a list that had criteria that Cooperative Strategy shared for these particular processes. And then I gave you guidelines that they shared with the advisory this past week. And so similar to kind of what we did just a few moments ago, what we want from you is I would just encourage you, just look at the guidelines examples as far as criteria. And is there any here that you absolutely don't like, or any criteria that you want the people who are making the recommendation to consider when they're developing these boundary zones? Okay? I'll put this up here so you guys,
John, I can read them tonight, but is it possible we could have like a day or two to read through these and get back to you? When does the,
you can, the advisory doesn't meet for another week or so.
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly do that if you would like.
Maybe share it with Gita since she'll be on the
Yeah,
committee.
yeah, that'd be good.
They're gonna be
You're not
looking at
even
this
going,
too.
right?
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So then share them with Gita if you have other things
Yeah.
we should consider.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so some of the three big ones are, proximity, capacity, trying to not underutilize, trying not to overutilize, and then just diversity of schools. So those are three particular, big ones, but then there's some other ones in there too. Use man-made boundaries,
Yeah.
safety of kids. That was a hot topic the other day, talking about that. Just
What's an example of the unique needs of the student population at a given campus?
where is that?
Right above the maintain diverse populations. Second on the right.
I don't remember what that was. It was explained. I don't remember it though. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's needed, yeah.
Unless that refers possibly
remember?
to like the free and reduced lunch population.
Could be an equity call
Okay, yeah. it could be.
Even though it's
Remember if it was
very
a-
Discuss that specifically, but I don't know if we discussed this item specifically,
Yeah,
but it seems like it could go with the equity issue that was coming up.
yeah,
So, especially since it says at a given campus.
yeah. Okay.
Can that be stated a little bit more clearly then to that goal?
Well, these
Well,
these are just
examples,
These,
right?
the other side is the
Yeah.
criteria.
Well, the other side is, the other side was like a big list of suggested criteria. This is the one that they presented the other night. This is the one that I posted up there.
But it
I'm
says
just not-
examples, and then it says guidelines will be vetted and
Right.
determined by the board.
Right. Well, we talked about these. I don't remember what that one was, but we wanted you all to make the determination, is there any on here that you really don't like, or is there any that you want added to it?
To this side, sorry, to the one that says examples?
Yeah, I think that's where you are.
What's
On
that?
the examples page?
Yes, yes,
That's where we're leaning, so.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see it, the ones on the other side, they're almost verbatim.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same. Yeah. This is the one that Cooperative Strategies, the example side is the one Cooperative Strategies brought to the meeting, thinking that they were fitting what we were doing. And this is the one the group discussed the other night. They didn't have necessarily any to add to this, but I just can't remember what that one means. But I can get clarification on that too.
As long as the group has clarification.
Yeah.
Actually, would like clarification on this attempt to ensure students at the zones or campuses are not moved or negatively impacted when distributing programs among schools.
Where are you at?
On the other side.
Criteria page.
Under the, about the STEMfish one down.
But we're not using these, right?
These,
But didn't we say we're not using the criteria side?
yeah, these.
Right, she's talking about this bottom bullet right here. And I think that was dealing with the parcels, like don't taking kids from a smaller area.
No,
She's on
I
the
was-
criteria.
I was over
Oh,
here.
we're
Oh.
okay,
So,
yeah.
I know that for these purposes, I mean, for our purposes tonight, we're looking at this side of the paper, right?
Right.
But then over here, what, were these things that came up, or were these things that?
No, these were what I had sent to you all, this document in an email a couple weeks ago, just to kind of, this was before the last meeting. The last meeting, we kind of got caught on, and I, talking about the advisory group and how many members to have on it, and we didn't get to complete the criteria before then. So this is kind of what I had sent, this document. I'd asked Cooperative Strategies, what are examples of criteria other boards do? This is the document that they had put together for us. And so then for the purposes of the advisory last time, we had said that, the board hasn't had a chance to, look at this, discuss it yet, give their 2 cents necessarily. But these are the ones that kind of Cooperative Strategies thought had relevance to our project. There weren't any that were added to it, but I can't remember what that one is, but I can get clarification on that. And if there's any you think you don't like, again, we're not looking, it's not gonna be like a weighting system or anything like that. It's nothing, it's just what are some lenses you want them looking for through as they develop these particular lines. So I'll send these to you, and if there's any, I'll get clarification. And then if there's any you think should be added, I'll put it out to the whole board. And then, if you're good with what we got, then we can move forward.
Okay.
Cool. Any questions about any of the other proppy stuff?
John, kudos again to the district for putting all this online and for making it available. I see it referenced often when people have questions in
Yeah.
Facebook groups about it, so I appreciate that. And residents are knowing to point other people to these references. I'm curious, you mentioned you might be talking to Clark's staff. Are you talking to staff at all schools then?
Yeah.
And sometime before the middle of January, it sounds like?
Yeah, there's only maybe one school that spills over to the first of the year,
Sure.
and trying to work with their existing faculty meetings if possible, so teachers and staff don't have to have another day.
Sure. And they have a chance to ask questions?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there'll be focus groups like last time around, where the advisory committee will determine what are the different types of groups we want to have, to get their thoughts. Like last time around, we had like real estate agents, we had clergy, we had city leaders, officials, like different kinds of groups. Then we had some heterogeneous groups as well, but faculty and staff will have, a group as well. Definitely want to get their thoughts and opinions. Okay.
All right, Any
That's
other
it.
questions? All right, at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do you want to do the public comment?
Oh, did I move
303?
it there? Sorry, my bad. We now have our second opportunity for public comments. Would anyone like to speak? In that case, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.05, 4.06.
Second.
All those in favor, aye. Anyone opposed?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you.
All right, thank
Probably
you.
short